Good morning to you at St. Peter's in Seattle from across the country here in Yorktown, Virginia, right beside the Chesapeake Bay where it empties out into the Atlantic Ocean, a place where Edmund grew up. I was the rector of his church for 30 years, so he was a small boy when I came here. And he came along with Michael and Ben to my retirement 2 years ago. More about that later. I stand in the wilderness today, National Park Service property, because Jesus tells a story and uses an image that is apparently one of his favorite, and it's one of my favorites, the seed principle. Everything in the frame here that you can see and I can see began with a small seed. The pine behind me, from a slivery seed in one of these cones, now some 80 feet tall and strong. It's a well-known principle, even a commonplace, that big things start from small beginnings. It's built into our colloquialisms like getting a foot in the door, or don't let the camel get his nose under the tent, or it's a slippery slope, or the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Jesus points to the seed. He says, it's as if someone scattered seed, and then they sleep and rise night and day, and it grows, they do not know how. First there's the stalk, then there's the head, then there's the head full of grain. A great mystery. I never lose sight of this principle, and one of the joys of the gardening I have done in these last 2 years since retirement has been to feel wonder at every germination of every seed. The tiny, tiny radish seed becoming a full, flagrantly red vegetable, tasty and crisp. And the sunflower seed, just a little bigger, growing. Mine have grown over a foot a week, so they are taller than me now. This variety called Pike's Peak sunflowers. And they will soon open out their wide yellow heads. There's a kind of energy, obviously, moving through this process. There's something so small can grow so large. Something so insignificant can take on true substance. In different traditions, it's called chi, or life energy, or prana. We Christians call it the Holy Spirit. God working, moving. It is God who gives the growth. St. Paul says as much in Corinthians. He says, we plant, we water, but it is God alone who gives the growth. Now, let's wiggle our way into that formula a little more firmly. Let me tell a quick story. Maybe it's a joke, not that funny. There was an old-timer who saw in his neighborhood a lot that had become run down and abandoned, covered with brambles. And he got permission from the city and began to clear it off to plant a garden. Well, a Baptist preacher from just down the street passed by and said, "Give God the glory." And this man, whose name was Sam, nodded in agreement. And as the day came where he planted the seeds in the ground, this same preacher passed by and says, "God gives all the growth and give him all the glory." Sam nodded in agreement. And when the vegetables were getting knee-high, the same scene repeated itself, and the preacher said, "Give God the glory." And then when it came time to harvest, and Sam was pulling squash and zucchini and corn from the stalks. This preacher passed by him with great enthusiasm and said, "Give God the glory for the growth." And Sam said, I'm perfectly willing to do that, but I would like just a little credit, because you should have seen this place when the Lord had it on his own. We are co-creators, co-participants. But this story Jesus tells of the seed being scattered and growing mysteriously is not really about agriculture any more than the story of the laborers in the vineyard is about small business management, or the story of the prodigal son is about estate planning. There's something else at stake here, a spiritual principle, if you will, that even the non-material has this same seed-like capacity, that a kindness extended helps to create the very kingdom of God on earth. And this principle speaks into something of our frequent discouragement in assessing how small we are and seemingly insignificant, and how sometimes the offerings we make, we can't see much fruit. The 13th century Persian poet and Sufi mystic Rumi says, "I am so small, how can this great love you talk about be in me?" Well, look at the eye. It is small, but it sees gigantic things. That's the principle. I am so small, how can this great love be in me? Well, look at the eye. It is small, but it sees enormous things. Our bodies, even our literal pumping heart is small, yet it feels enormous things. And it can do through our hands and feet and gestures remarkable things, if we but start willing to be small. Malcolm Gladwell, the prolific author, has one book called The Tipping Point, How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference. Amen. And another of his books is about what he calls the David and Goliath principle, that yes, built into the deepest and oldest traditions is this capacity for perseverance and intention and heart to have unusual leverage in this world. Another author, Charles Eisenstein, ecologist, great soul, has a book with the title, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. I think that's another poetic phrase for the kingdom of God. The more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. How else could Jesus have understood his own life and ministry? After all, in the Gospel of John, it says, unless a grain of wheat fall into the earth and die, it cannot bear any fruit. But if it die and fall into the earth, it can bear fruit. And so it was with him. And his dying and resurrection and the smallish band of followers he had growing and growing until today they cover the face of the earth. So where do we start? Well, with concrete things. The English mystic Blake, William Blake, who was a mystic, writes this. I'll read it to you. He who would do good to another must do it in minute particulars. general good is the plea of the scoundrel and hypocritical flatterer. For art and science cannot exist but in minutely organized particulars. Ours is to carry out these minutely organized particulars. And the kingdom of God is built on 10 million of them. I like to think that the people of Grace Church gave a kind of a scattering of seed to Edmund, so that what he lives by way of ministry now is fruit that has grown by God's good grace. Likewise with Michael, and now with Ben, in the love they give. In minute particulars, every time they do the next right thing, or love the next person that is difficult to love. And whatever seeds they sow among you, it is yours to continue and forward the process. The current day mystic and author Andrew Harvey gives this counsel. He says, notice what breaks your heart. Just pay attention. And there's plenty to choose from in our day and time. Pay attention to what breaks your heart and then respond to that with even one small, however seemingly insignificant gesture. Concrete, particular, minute act. For him, he loves big cats, lions, tigers, panthers, cheetahs, and he gives to the missions that help preserve them. And he visits the preserves and helps strategize how to help them avoid poachers, to see them thrive. For myself, my heart breaks with the distance between contemporary humanity and the natural world. And I recognized one tiny thing I could do was put my hands in the dirt and grow vegetables for my family and to give away. What breaks my heart is the youth of this country that live sometimes in toxic environments with their eagerness and hunger for God that gets diverted into lesser things. And so I accepted an invitation to teach at Christopher Newport University, to speak into that space. And it has been good. What breaks your heart? It shouldn't be hard to identify something. Will you do small, minute, particular acts as gifts to the building up of this more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible, the very kingdom of God? Paul says, let us not grow weary in well-doing. Remember, you may not see the fruit. That's okay. God's responsibility. But you plant, water, cultivate, give. In the name of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.